The champagne tower glittered under the soft amber lighting of Skyline 47, the most exclusive restaurant in the city. From the floor-to-ceiling windows, Manhattan sprawled below like a carpet of diamonds, each light a promise of dreams realized or still being chased. Victoria Ashford didn't chase dreams anymore. She owned them. She sat at table 7, the very important person section's crown jewel, her crimson dress a bold statement against the pristine white tablecloth. Across from her sat her husband, Marcus, impeccably dressed in a tailored navy suit that cost more than most people's monthly rent. They were celebrating their 5th wedding anniversary at the restaurant everyone said was impossible to get into. Victoria had made 3 calls to make it happen. That was the kind of power she wielded. "This is exactly what we needed," Marcus said, raising his wine glass. The Bordeaux inside was older than most of the staff. "A reminder of how far we've come." Victoria smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. She knew what he meant. They had both grown up with nothing, clawing their way up from neighborhoods where dreams went to die. Now they sat among the city's elite, and she'd be damned if anyone would ever make her feel small again. That's when she saw him. A black man in his early 30s walked through the restaurant's entrance. He wore a faded grey hoodie, worn jeans with a small tear at the knee, and work boots that had seen better days. His clothing hung loose on his athletic frame, and there was a tiredness in his eyes that spoke of long hours and hard work. Victoria's spine stiffened. She watched as he approached the host's stand, speaking quietly to the hostess. The young woman's face showed confusion. Then she gestured toward the dining room, toward their section. "You've got to be kidding me," Victoria muttered, loud enough for Marcus to turn and look. The man was walking closer now, his eyes scanning the room. When his gaze landed on their table, specifically the empty chair at table 8 right next to theirs, he started heading in that direction. Victoria's hand shot up, snapping her fingers with the sharp efficiency of someone used to being obeyed. "Excuse me, excuse me." A security guard, broad-shouldered and alert, immediately approached. His name tag read, "Derek." "Yes, ma'am? Is there a problem?" Victoria leaned forward, her voice low but urgent. "That man," she said, tilting her head toward the approaching figure. "He clearly doesn't belong here. This is a very important person section. I don't know how he got past the front, but I'm not paying premium prices to have my anniversary ruined by someone who wandered in off the street." Derek's brow furrowed. "Ma'am, I'm not sure I can just—" "Look at him," Marcus interjected, his voice carrying the authority of a corporate attorney accustomed to winning arguments. "This is clearly a mistake. We're paying top dollar for an exclusive experience. That's what exclusive means, isn't it? We expect a certain atmosphere, a certain clientele." The man had almost reached table 8 now. He moved with a quiet confidence, seemingly unaware of or unconcerned by the attention he was drawing. Victoria's voice rose. "Security, remove him immediately. This is unacceptable. I want to speak to your manager." "Actually, no. Remove him first, then get your manager." Other diners were starting to notice now. Conversations quieted. Heads turned. The restaurant's elegant atmosphere began to crack under the weight of the brewing confrontation. Derek looked genuinely uncomfortable. "Ma'am, maybe we should— Are you not hearing me?" Victoria stood now, her voice carrying across the dining room. "This man clearly cannot afford to be here. He probably came in hoping to steal something, or beg for money, or who knows what. This is supposed to be a safe, exclusive space. Do your job." The man in the hoodie stopped walking. He stood perhaps 10 feet from their table, and for the first time his eyes met Victoria's directly. There was no anger in them, no indignation, just a deep, weary sadness that made something twist uncomfortably in her chest. But Victoria pushed that feeling down. She had learned long ago that hesitation was weakness. "I'm going to ask you politely to leave," Derek said to the man, though his tone suggested he wished he were anywhere else. "Sir, there seems to be some confusion about your reservation." "There's no confusion," the man said quietly. His voice was gentle, educated even, which surprised Victoria, though she'd never admit it. "I was told table 8 was available for paying guests," Marcus said, standing now to join his wife. Look, friend, I don't know what your situation is, but this isn't the place. There's a diner 2 blocks down, much more your speed. Something flickered across the man's face. Pain, perhaps. Recognition, definitely. I belong here, he said simply. Victoria laughed, a sharp sound that cut through the room. Belong here? In that outfit? With those shoes? You belong here like I belong in a homeless shelter. Derek, I'm losing patience. Either you remove him, or I'm calling the police and reporting a trespasser. Do you want that kind of scene at this establishment? The entire restaurant had gone silent now. Even the kitchen noise seemed muted. All eyes were on the confrontation. Derek reached for the man's arm. Sir, please, let's not make this harder than it has to be. Take your hand off me. The voice came from behind them, sharp and commanding. Victoria turned to see a woman in her 50s striding toward them with the purposeful gait of someone who owned every room she entered. She wore an elegant black pantsuit, and her salt and pepper hair was pulled back in a neat bun. Her name tag identified her as Patricia Morales, General Manager. Derek, step away from Mr. Washington right now, Patricia said, her voice like steel wrapped in velvet. Derek's hand dropped as if burned. Miss Morales, these guests were complaining that... I heard exactly what these guests were complaining about, Patricia said, her gaze sweeping over Victoria and Marcus with the warmth of an Arctic winter. What I want to know is why you were about to lay hands on the owner of this restaurant. The words hung in the air like a bomb waiting to detonate. Victoria felt her mouth go dry. What? Patricia turned to the man in the hoodie, her expression softening. Mr. Washington, I am so deeply sorry. This is inexcusable. Are you all right? The man, Mr. Washington, nodded slowly. He still looked more sad than angry, which somehow made everything worse. The owner? Marcus's voice had lost all its confidence. But he's dressed like someone who just came from visiting a construction site. Patricia finished coldly. Yes, Mr. Washington owns this restaurant, along with 4 others in the city. He also owns the building we're standing in. He frequently visits sites where his charitable foundation is building affordable housing. He comes here afterward because, despite being a billionaire, he's remarkably down to earth, and this is his favorite place to have a quiet meal after a long day. Victoria felt the floor dropping out from under her. Around them, other diners were staring, some with their phones out. This was going to be all over social media within the hour. We couldn't have known, Victoria stammered. You didn't bother to know, Mr. Washington said quietly. His voice held no malice, which somehow made it cut deeper. You saw my clothes, saw my skin, and made every assumption. Sean, you needed to make... That's not fair, Marcus protested weakly. This is about dress code, not... Don't. Mr. Washington interrupted gently. Please don't insult both of us by finishing that sentence. I've heard every version of that excuse since I was old enough to understand that some people would always see my success as a mistake that needed correcting. Patricia's expression hardened as she turned back to Victoria and Marcus. I'm going to have to ask you both to leave. Immediately. You can't kick us out. Victoria's voice pitched higher. We have a reservation. We've done nothing wrong. You attempted to have the owner of this establishment forcibly removed because you deemed him unworthy of being here based on his appearance, Patricia said, her voice cutting through Victoria's protests. That violates every principle this restaurant stands for. Your reservation is cancelled. Your credit card will be charged a cancellation fee, and you are permanently banned from this establishment and all properties owned by Washington Hospitality Group. The blood drained from Marcus's face. All properties? But that includes the Grandview Hotel, the Meridian, every single one, Patricia confirmed. Derek, please escort them out. This time Derek looked considerably more comfortable with his assignment. This way, please. Victoria's mind raced, searching for some way to salvage the situation. Mr. Washington, please. We made a mistake. We're sorry. We're good people. I grew up poor too, you have to understand. We just wanted to protect what we've earned. Mr. Washington regarded her with those sad, knowing eyes. When he spoke, his voice was soft enough that only their small group could hear. I do understand. That's the tragedy of it. You crawled up from the bottom, and the first thing you learned to do was kick down at anyone you thought might be below you. You learn to see people the way the people at the top once saw you, and now you can't see anything else." He paused, and for a moment Victoria thought she saw a flicker of the boy he must have been before success and wealth, when he too had been judged by his clothes and his skin. "I started this restaurant 10 years ago," he continued. "I called it Skyline 47 because that's the number of job applications I filled out before someone finally gave me a chance. 47 times I was told I wasn't good enough, wasn't the right fit, wasn't what they were looking for. 47 times someone looked at me and saw what you saw tonight." Victoria felt tears burning her eyes, but whether from shame or frustration she couldn't tell. "I built this place as a reminder," Mr. Washington said. "A reminder that worth isn't measured by designer labels or expensive watches, that dignity isn't earned by how much you can spend, but by how you treat people who can do nothing for you." He gestured around the restaurant, at the other diners who were still watching, at the staff who had gathered at the edges of the room. "Every single person who works here has a story. Patricia was homeless when I hired her 15 years ago. Derek was formerly incarcerated and couldn't get work anywhere else. Our head chef learned to cook in a group home. I don't hire people in spite of their struggles. I hire them because I remember mine." Marcus had gone very quiet, his earlier bluster completely deflated. Victoria found she couldn't meet Mr. Washington's eyes anymore. "I hope someday you'll understand," Mr. Washington said. "I hope you'll remember this night not with anger, but with the realization that you had a choice in every moment, and you chose wrong." Derek gently gestured toward the exit. This time, Victoria and Marcus didn't resist. They walked through the silent restaurant, past tea diners who watched with expressions ranging from disapproval to pity. The walk felt endless. As they reached the elevator, Victoria turned back one last time. Through the restaurant's glass walls, she could see Mr. Washington settling into his seat at table 8. Patricia brought him a menu, her hand briefly touching his shoulder in a gesture of comfort and solidarity. In that moment, Victoria saw clearly what she had become. She had fought so hard to escape poverty that she had turned into the very people who once looked down on her. She had climbed the ladder and then tried to pull it up behind her. The elevator doors opened. As they stepped inside, Marcus finally spoke. "We really messed up, didn't we?" Victoria didn't answer. She couldn't. The elevator descended, and with each floor, the weight of what they'd done grew heavier. They never returned to that neighborhood. The story spread quickly online. Couple attempts to eject restaurant owner from his own establishment. The video someone had filmed went viral. Victoria lost clients. Marcus's firm quietly suggested he take an extended leave, but that wasn't the real consequence. The real consequence came in the quiet moments. When Victoria saw someone in worn clothes, and her first instinct was still judgment, followed immediately by crushing shame. When Marcus walked past a homeless person and felt the weight of all his comfortable assumptions. When they both realized how much of their identity had been built on feeling superior to others. 6 months later, Victoria stood in line at a food bank, volunteering for the first time in her life. Next to her, Marcus served soup to people who reminded him of his own parents, decades ago. It wasn't redemption. It wasn't enough to erase what they'd done, but it was a start. And late at night, when Victoria couldn't sleep, she would think about Mr. Washington's sad eyes, and understand, finally, what he had tried to tell her. You never really escape where you came from. You only get to choose whether you'll remember it with compassion or with contempt, whether you'll use your success to lift others or to prove you're better than they are. She had chosen wrong. But every day now she woke up and tried to choose differently. It was harder than she ever imagined. But then again, the important things usually are.